All right, here we
All
are. Welcome
right.
back to Bookwave. Talking about The Alchemist today. I just want to start out by thanking the two of you, Pat and Will, for bringing this book to my attention and putting it on our reading list.
Well, you're
Yep.
welcome.
How did you guys feel about this book?
I really liked it. It had a tenth of the pages of Atlas Shrugged and a tenth of the words per page as Atlas Shrugged. So it was a very nice bedtime story.
Yep.
There's a reason why it's called a fable of following your dreams.
Yeah, it is short and sweet. It reminded me that you don't have to write 1 billion words to make a really successful book.
That's not to say you can't make a brilliant book with a billion words, but you don't need it.
Yeah, like
It's
there's
optional.
there's like a starting point and then there's an infinity, but like this was on the starting point side of the spectrum of words, and I liked it.
Yeah.
So my mom had told me to read this book and like 15 other people. And then I was rifling through my father's possessions one day, as I like to do. I like to keep stock on everything he owns. And I opened this drawer and I found his copy of The Alchemist. I was like, oh, okay, well, this is meant to be. And that's when I brought it up that we should read it.
Oh, cool stuff.
So it came to me.
There's a synchronicity for you.
Thank you. I found it had almost a sense of like M. Night Shyamalan was involved in the creation of this book.
How so?
Well, the last 3 pages.
Okay.
It's like, oh, I see where this is going. I know where the treasure is. This is going on a linear path. And then it didn't.
Yeah, I was expecting there to be a little bit of a twist at the end, but I just thought that was really cool how he did it. It almost felt like a test. Like, are you really following your journey? Right when you think you're at the end and just struggling to go any further, that's when they throw you the curveball. They're like, are you going to follow this till the end, or are you going to give up now?
Yeah.
It shows how capable you can be when you have this one vision that you continually see through your dreams and you begin to question it in your daily life.
It was interesting for me. It kind of shook me a bit because like when they get to the part where he's talking with the alchemist about just settling down in this village that he comes upon and being happy, and the alchemist warns him about what will happen in the next 4 years if he's to ignore the pursuit of his dream, that his heart will make him wander through the night aimlessly, feeling unfulfilled until eventually his heart stops talking to him. And like for myself, I stopped doing video game development and app development and pursuing the education of programming. And I always thought that that was something that I really wanted to do. And it was something that I was pursuing very passionately until one day I finally just hung that hat up and said that this isn't what I'm here for. And it made me kind of wonder if I wronged myself doing that. And I put myself really in the position of the boy receiving the advice from the king and the alchemist and such, because my friend that I hang out with quite frequently has read it and loves it. And that's one of the pieces of advice he gave me was, when you're reading the book, be the boy experiencing the journey, listen to the advice as though you're receiving it. And so I did that and I immersed myself in it. And a lot of the quotes were very powerful. And it's kind of left me thinking about how I want to shape my life going forward, which is interesting, you know, for such a short book to have the impact that it's had on me is quite profound.
Yeah, and unlike the crystal merchant and the baker who stay in one place and wither on their own success, Santiago continues to seek fulfillment on his quest to find the treasure. He doesn't just stop and stay in the same spot for 30 years, which of course anyone can do. But in the end, you cannot let your youth, you cannot let your memories, you cannot let other people tell you that you can stay here for as long as you need to and not go after something that your heart wants to.
Yeah, and there's the one point where the king tells him, you know, not to say any of this to the baker because the baker's always wanted to travel, but, you know, he reasoned with himself that he should stay in town and become a baker. And if you were to tell him that, hey, you should travel, you just bring him more and more suffering.
It was interesting. Like, and I really liked the crystal ware merchant man guy. English. I really liked that he knew what his dream was, and for him it was enough to have the dream because he was concerned that if he reached the Mecca, that he wouldn't have anything to live for.
Mm-hmm.
And the metaphors in this story are beautiful.
And there's a really good quote that I have written down about this kind of stuff from the book. It says, "The world's greatest lie is that at a certain point in our lives we lose control of what's happening to us and our lives become controlled by fate." And that quote comes from the King of Salem.
What's his name?
I don't remember. I didn't write that bit down.
Melchizedek?
I think he just mentions that he's the king of Salem.
No, he's got a name. It's like Melchizedek or something.
It's something like that, because there's a point where he's like, I should have repeated my name to the boy, because now he'll only remember me as the King of Salem. And
he should have repeated it, because then Pat would remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just go by the boy, the merchant, the baker, the girl, the alchemist.
The alchemist. I really liked the quote that I didn't write down that the alchemist says to the warring tribesmen that approach them on horses, and they search their bags and they find a vial filled with a liquid and a shiny yellow stone, and they say, "What are these?" And he says, "Oh, that's the elixir of life and the philosopher's stone. Any man who drinks the elixir of life will never get sick again, and a single shard of that stone will turn any metal into gold." And they all just laugh, and the boy is like so shocked. He's like, "Why would you tell him that?" He's like, "Because when you know something so great, the world has a hard time listening to you," or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was like, yeah, like you can't teach someone about the things that you've learned. They have to learn them on their own, in their own way.
And it also gets rid of the fear, which is another theme of the book, because as Santiago and the alchemists go with these warriors, the alchemist teaches the boy not to cower in fear, because the tribesmen cannot tolerate fear. It's only when they look at you in the eye, when they see your soul and see how sturdy and how calm it is, that they can fully accept you.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, but you just brought something up that I have to tangent on. Because I didn't retain the name of the boy, and I think I know why. Because Brooklyn Nine-Nine might have loosely based Santiago, Detective Santiago, on Santiago. Like, I see so much of Santiago in Santiago now.
That's actually a joke. Like, that's intentional.
I'd hope so.
Yeah.
How did you know?
They bring it up in an episode, I'm pretty sure.
Really? They bring up the Alchemist in Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
They don't, like, it's in, like, the first season or something. Or in the second when Jake and Amy are together, and he just, like, says the name Santiago, and she's like, what, is that supposed to be a reference or something? He's just like, True. Yes, actually.
True. Well, it's so cool, because, like, Captain Holt is her alchemist.
Ah.
Right? Right? And Jake Peralta is her Fatima.
Oh, there you go.
I really liked the Arabic word. I'm going to butcher it. I apologize. Maktub.
Yeah, it is written.
It is written. I like that. I like how eloquently they wrapped that religion in with this Christian narrative that they have.
Yeah, I really like that, actually. It kind of demonstrated that, like, there's no difference between these different people, even though they have all these wildly differing beliefs.
Yeah, like when they have the caravan starting to take off and the camel driver is saying, look, I believe in Allah And I swear to Allah that I will protect all of you. Now I would like you to all swear to whoever your gods are that you will follow my orders, because if you don't follow my orders, we will die in this desert. And it was just like super accepting and super plain. Like, this is my religion, and this is really important to me, and I need you to use your religion and your highest level of importance to swear to me that you're going to do right by all of us.
Yeah, and you have the same theme with the crystal merchant, whose dream is to reach Mecca one day, and Mecca's a great holy site for all those Abrahamic religions.
Yeah, and it's just like nonchalant, no big deal.
Yeah, he did a really good job of just telling a story of people coming together with different backgrounds.
What did you all think of the prologue?
Prologue or epilogue?
The prologue, where
the myth
the
of
Alchemist
Narcissus.
talks. Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, the
prologue means before.
Yeah, the prologue. He's reading the story of the myth of Narcissus.
Why don't I have the prologue in my copy of The Alchemist?
Well, I don't know.
I'm gonna grab my book.
While he grabs that, I found that another theme is reading, because you see the boy carrying books with him, and he always talks about how the thickest books can be the most comfortable.
Oh yeah, he uses them as the pillow.
Yeah.
I don't have a prologue.
Okay, well, let me read it to you.
Yeah, it's
not that long. It's not that long. It's just a page.
It's like a page and a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really good. I never heard the second half of that before.
I think it's evident in the beginning of the book. But anyways, here's the prologue. The alchemist picked up a book that someone in the caravan had brought. Leafing through the pages, he found a story about Narcissus. The alchemist knew the legend of Narcissus, a youth who knelt daily beside a lake to contemplate his own beauty. He was so fascinated by himself that one morning, he fell into the lake and drowned. At the spot where he fell, a flower was born, which was called the Narcissus. But this was not how the author of the book ended the story. He said that when Narcissus died, the goddesses of the forest appeared and found the lake, which had been fresh water transformed into a lake of salty tears. "Why do you weep?" the goddesses asked. "I weep for Narcissus," the lake replied. "Ah, it is no surprise that you weep for Narcissus," they said. "For though we always pursued him in the forest, you alone could contemplate his beauty close at hand." "But was Narcissus beautiful?" the lake asked. "Who better than you to know that?" the goddesses said, in wonder. "After all, it was by your banks that he knelt each day to contemplate himself." The lake was silent for some time. Finally, it said, "I weep for Narcissus, but I never noticed that Narcissus was beautiful. I weep because each time he knelt beside me, I could see in the depths of his eyes my own beauty reflected." What a lovely story, the alchemist thought. That's it.
Jeez, so the lake is a narcissist.
Yeah. Really
What
flips
is
the
this?
story around.
M. Night Shyamalan strikes again. As if I don't have that. I'm so upset. What kind of backwards copy do I have?
But I guess the story of that kind of shows what's going to happen with the overall theme of finding your personal legend, following your dreams. Because as the boy keeps thinking that there's treasure in the pyramids of Egypt, and he strives for it, and goes along this path, meets several characters, and goes through various obstacles, what does the world see in him? Is the world exactly like the lake itself? Wondering
like
if...
Right after you said, "What does the world see in him?" we should have rolled that noise from the X-Files. or the Twilight Zone. Either one, but that was so poignant.
We need to get a soundboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bum, bum.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of another quote in this book that says, "Everyone seems to have a clear idea of how other people should lead their lives, but none about his or her own."
Yeah, that's kind of just going by a default setting and just blindly going after whatever it is that your head. Because throughout the book, the boy tries to listen to his heart. The alchemist tells him that.
There's also the notion of when he gives 1/10 of his treasure to the gypsy, and then when he gives 1/10 of his flock to the king. I thought that was kind of cool.
Why did you like that?
How the king made the difference between, like, if you don't give up what you have right now, then you're going to be less likely to pursue your legend because you're going to forget what you gave up. If you just promise what you're going to have in the future, then you're going to be even less motivated to go find your treasure because you know that as soon as you find it, it's going to be, most of it's gone.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part or important lesson if you can read into it enough, because you can't commit to something by offering something you don't have. The only way
Exactly.
to instill the desire and to, I mean, the phrase is to have skin in the game, right? You have to pay with what you have. You can't say, oh, well, put me on my path to become a successful man, and when I'm rich, I'll pay you. Like, anybody can promise that. You have to give the shirt off your back if that's all you have to get the sagely advice of the king, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to make the proper sacrifices to do that.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what the gypsy thinks about that.
Well, at the end of the book, I can bet you they're pretty happy about it.
Well, yeah, for sure. But like, how many free palm readings has this gypsy handed out on the hopes of getting 1/10 of the treasure? And what's the return rate on that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's interesting. Like I said, I love this book. I'm going to read it every year.
Yeah, you could read it in like 2 days or...
The book should be a reminder for everybody who is struggling to find what they're worth as far as following their dreams, following their personal legend. Because you brought up your own story about how you thought about being what is it, a programmer, design?
I always thought I wanted to be a video game designer.
Yeah, video game designer. I'm kind of going through the same similar situation where I've always relied on my imagination. And as a child, I grew up around stories, listening and watching them. And at the end of each story, my mind would wander throughout the universe, throughout different worlds. And I thought, I could be a writer. I want to present this in written form. I want to share this with everybody. As I grew older, the dream rests in my head of wanting to write and publish these stories. But at the same time, my heart is telling me, well, where are these stories? Where are you right now? And the truth is, lately I've been struggling to stay on that path, to get all these stories written out and out into the world. Because if they only exist in my head, no one will know that they exist in real life. So I think The Alchemist can be a reminder for everyone to not let the memories and your youth and the fact that you can just stay in one spot for years and years to come and think that you can gain success from that and comfort, but you can just simply allow the mysticism and the psychology give you enough momentum to keep going.
Well, it's kind of like when Santiago was at the end of his year with the crystal merchant and he was considering going home. And then he had this perspective shift where he said, well, I'm 2 hours closer to my dream. It may have taken me a year, but that's irrelevant. I've been living in the present moment, making the best of my situation. And now I'm at a point where I have the resources again to go closer to my dream, not to say, oh, I got 2 hours closer to my dream and I failed, but to say, I got 2 hours closer to my dream and I'm going to keep going. And I think that's an important lesson too, that just stagnation doesn't equal failure.
Yeah. It's important not to lose sight of that progress bar, even if it
Yeah.
stops moving.
Yeah, man. There's side quests, but the master quest still has work to do.
Yeah. You're always gaining experience, but that
Even
main
if it's
quest is always lurking over your head.
even if you're just developing your language skill or your merchant skill, you still got that master quest.
One
And it,
random little part from this book that I picked up about Urim and Thummim, the two stones that mean like yes and no. It reminded me a lot of Hugin and Munin, like Odin's two ravens that mean thought and memory.
right.
Yeah.
I was wondering how many times those things would appear in other genres.
I don't know if it's like an exact parallel, but
Cut from the same cloth.
yeah. Because he uses it, like Odin uses his two ravens to kind of predict the future. And these two stones are like fortune telling stones. Just tell them yes or no, pick a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going forward.
It was cool that the Englishman had them too.
Mm-hmm.
That these were things that exist that anyone can acquire. They're simple crystal rocks in the wilderness, but when you give them that power to help you differentiate between yes and no, there's this intuitive energy inside them. And I think a lot of people understand that at a base level about crystals and energy. The crystal isn't the energy, it's your subconscious mind,
Yes.
but it gives you a decision, and it allows you to say, yeah, okay, well, I grabbed this stone and I was leaning that way, so I will go that way.
And as soon as you pick a stone and you look at it, you're either going to have the reaction of, yeah, that was the answer that I secretly wanted, or no, I secretly wanted the other one, which is also going to help you make your decision.
Mm-hmm. They're tools.
You're going to know the truth that you wanted and the truth that was random, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of points in this book that reminded me of The Secret.
Yeah.
The documentary. And like I think it's pretty woo, but my view on The Secret is that, you know, you don't necessarily manifest events that happen, but you can't follow your future without trying to visualize and manifest your future on your own. Like that is a part of it, but it isn't the all of it.
I can understand where you're coming from because you are the skeptic among us. But two things I want to say quickly. Well, first of all, it's a book first. I haven't read it. I watched the documentary as well. Second of all, yeah, they're totally the same thing. They're talking about the law of attraction. And here's where I like to think of it as much more than just woo-woo, because the law of attraction says that if you have an intention strong enough, the universe will align to bring it to you. But what I actually think about it is this: when you know in your heart of hearts, in the language of the world, what you want, and you put it into the universe using the law of attraction, what happens is your reticular activation system, which is the part of your brain that processes visual stimuli and suggests which ones for you to notice, takes that input and allows you to notice things that you probably were surrounded by anyways, but weren't paying attention to, only because you're now putting them out there with the law of attraction. It's like when you buy a white car, you see all the white cars.
Yeah.
I can
see how I can see how it would definitely like train your focus. But
yeah, it's like
I just see a lot of people saying all you have to do is visualize what you want and the universe will give it to you. When you want something, the universe conspires to have you achieve it.
It's definitely not that base. It's more like it's a commitment with yourself and the universe. You've got to put yourself out there as hard as
it would help you to come in accordance with the universe, like not see the world as what you want it to be, but see it for what it is. I understand all those bits of it, but there's a lot of people out there that just say it's magic.
It's definitely not magic. It's definitely just I really think it's a science that when you know what you want, your brain allows you to see the things that you weren't seeing that allow you to get closer to your dream. But if you don't leave your house and you sit in bed all day wishing for $1 million, that's not the law of attraction.
Exactly. That's all I wanted to say. I think we're on the same page.
I think so too.
I think for a short book, I think we've accomplished a lot of things, learned a lot of things.
Yeah, that was a great contribution to my reading list this year.
And like I said, I'll definitely use this book as a reminder to just learn from what the boy has gone through and use that as a metaphor to go throughout life.
And remind yourself that you're the boy too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of Santiago in all of us.
Santiago.
I have one more little quote to sum up what we've been talking about. You will never be able to escape from your heart, so it's better to listen to what it has to say. That way you'll never have to fear an unanticipated blow. And that comes from the Alchemist himself.
True. I also want to throw in the bit that he tells Santiago to tell his heart that the fear of suffering hurts more than the suffering itself. It's best to live in the present moment. Anxiety does not fix the future.
It'll certainly give you joy for sure.
And no matter where you are, you can always follow your personal journey. You have to listen to your heart.
Well, I put an asterisk at the end of that one.
After reading Ayn Rand, I'd say listen to your mind too, but you know.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
But like this was such a good contrast for Atlas Shrugged, because that was like, forsake the spirit, forsake your heart, listen only to your mind and nothing else. And this was just complete opposite.
man, you need to read John Galt's speech again. I think that somewhere in the mind, the heart was kind of tied in there. I hear what you're saying. I agree 95% of the way, but they wrapped into the mind the notion of free will and consciousness. And I like to think that their brain is kind of their heart.
Yeah.
There was so much passion in those characters, man. But like, I honestly, reading The Alchemist after that is kind of like the episode of The Simpsons after like 3 horror movies on cable TV. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta throw some spurts of joy in between the fucking heavy stuff.
Yeah. Well, do we have anything else that we wanted to bring up?
Nope.
Go read it.
Buy the book.
Like, comment, subscribe to your favorite podcast.
And this one too.
Yeah.
And if you have any book recommendations for us, let us know.
Yeah. And if you really like us, we have a donation box too, so keep that in mind. The link's in the YouTube too. It's all there.
Next up, Dante's Inferno, and we're gonna get into Plato's Republic soon, right?
Yep. And then a couple more dialogues from Plato, and then 12 rules, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Until next time, may the force be with you.
And happy Area 51 raid day.
Go get them.